Hello and welcome to Hops and Brews. This week, we're talking collabs.
For an open window on a crafty world, Max and Chris from Ups and Brews. Ups and Brews. Welcome to Ups and Brews.
Welcome to the new year. So 2019 is done. We're now in 2020. Now, if you guys remember a few years ago, we did kind of our top beers of 17 back in the day. It's been a few years. And my number one for that year was a beer from LFU, which was a wild blend, so wild barrel-aged blend. And it was delightful, it was phenomenal. The acidity was in perfect balance with that fruitiness in that beer. Now, given it was before my program or my training at Niagara College, so I didn't have a lot of ways to describe it. I just knew that it was phenomenal. When it comes to sours, especially in Ontario and in different parts of the States, we've seen a lot of people do what's called kettle souring. We did an episode on it, but here's the gist of it. To sour a beer, we use a bacteria called lactobacillus. It is a probiotic. It is the same bacteria you find in yogurt. With that bacteria, it kind of works with yeast in the sense that yeast can work at lower pHs. That bacteria lowers the pH and can tolerate some alcohol. So they're kind of symbiotic in a lot of different ways of fermenting. But the industry has gone towards kettle souring, which entails basically killing off the bacteria after it's done doing its work, and then inoculating it with yeast, with normal brewer's yeast, to finish fermentation, which works but creates a very non-distinct sourness. At least that's how I perceive it. I've had a lot of kettle sours, and a lot of them are very well balanced. A lot of them are very well made, but they have to be balanced with something else. A lot of people add fruit. I've also seen people add lactose to kettle sours to kind of help with the body of that beer. And if you ask me, that works kind of well. It's a good way to kind of hijack a lot of different aspects of beer and create the best product you can with your means. Now, when I say means, or when I say the best product you can, that bacteria is quite aggressive. Lactobacillus can infect your brewery, live around, and kind of cross-contaminate a lot of different beers. That's why a lot of breweries are going towards kettle souring, because when you kettle sour, you kill off the bacteria. You take away any chance of it, of infecting your beer anywhere else in the process. When it comes to mixed fermentation, where you let all of those different bacteria and different yeast strains work together to ferment, I find it creates a more balanced product, and it's something that a few breweries have been experimenting with, have been doing, and doing very, very well. Two of those are Bench and À la Fût. So today's beer that I'm having, that I'm enjoying in this new year, 2 years after I nominated À la Fût for the best beer of the year, or my favorite beer ever back then, I'm trying a collaboration they did with Bench. That was pretty cool. The brewmaster from Bench, a few people from the company were able to go to À la Fût, meet the people there, and brew a barrel-aged sour beer with them, which a few months after, they bottled, and I was able to get my hands on one. And up to now, it is a delightful beer. I remember why I love that À la Fût beer. This has that character, that great flavor that I think the barrels have at À la Fût. They're probably all kind of cross-inoculating themselves from one bacteria to the other. We're talking lacto, we're talking pedio, we're talking a lot of different wild Brett strains of yeast. And this is great, this is phenomenal, this tastes familiar, it smells familiar. Now this is going to be a little odd, because usually we can analyze this, and then Chris is going to talk, or I'm going to talk, and then we have time to kind of, smell and do whatever. I'm going to try to figure out a way to edit this in a way that it's not boring, but let's take a smell for this beer right now. And it smells delightful. The oak, the vanilla, a little bit of honey even kind of comes up on the nose, which is kind of nice. Those flavors usually are associated with a little bolder, kind of more sweet flavors in real life. In this case, very reminiscent of that barrel, that oak that comes through. Now, on the palate, let's try it out right now.
So this week we're pairing up the video with a little bit of a review of this fantastic beer, La Dégaine. It's a collab from À l'Affût and Bench Brewing Company. Max already is gonna dive a little bit deeper into the science or the ways, different techniques used to create this beer, this very special collab, because it's from two very sour prominent breweries, and there's a lot of nice techniques that's been used in this beer, and you can definitely see that they've both worked into this beer. So it's blended with two beers from Bench Brewing Company, if I'm not wrong, and also a couple of assemblages from À l'Affût. The result is a golden, a little bit of haze, very low head retention on the beer, but on the nose, you get nice tart aromas. I'm back from a big flu, so my palate might be a little bit affected, but so far, so good. But all this together really creates something that's very complex. I get a lot of acidic front of it, a little bit of like balsamic vinegar, sourness, but it all blends itself together with a little bit of like citrus, but I do get ripe peaches at some point in there, but it's all rounded up with a nice little kind of like wooden maple finish. I can't wait to see what Max has to say about this beer, because it's obviously out there in my palate. It's completely different from what I've had from these two breweries, and having them both working together is just always fantastic. So overall, La Dégaine, I think it's another great sour from both of those breweries, and if you have the opportunity to find this little bottle out there on the shelves, grab it. 100% guaranteed you'll love it. This week on Beer Review. Boom. À l'Affût Dégaine. Collab with Bench Brewing Company out there in Niagara Falls, Ontario, and À l'Affût, which is located in Saint-Tite out there in Quebec. Two very sour permanent breweries. Lots of work with barrel aging. Bench has a nice cool ship too at the same time, so it's all worth sampling this beer, sampling the knowledge of both breweries in one single drinking. So all this resulting in a golden hazy with a nice little head on top. It's quickly disappearing, but obviously if there's a lot of proteins and there's a lot of science out of it, sometimes head retention is not what's going to be prominent in the beer, but I do get a lot of tartness, a nice balsamic vinegar roundness to it. It's all very well blended, even though it's quite complex. The sourness or the tartness really brings out the fruity flavors out of it. Stone fruit, a little bit of citrus. It all kind of like smoothens out with a nice sweet maple finish. It's closer to the wood maple compared to like a maple pie or maple sap, but I really do enjoy the way it turns out and the way different flavors kind of like clashes together. Nice kind of like mellow finish, which I think really makes it a perfect slow sipper for this type of beer.
Phenomenal. So the body is not over. It's not too thick, but it's not too thin. It's very well balanced. Now the flavors that I talked about, the oak, the vanilla, the honey, they come through in this beer as well, which is phenomenal. It's very well balanced. I think it's one of my favorite beers from À l'Affût as well. That's a great balance. What's the other thing I wanted to mention about body, flavor? I don't know. Usually Chris is here. This is a disaster, big disaster. This is really good. Very funky, very fruity. And that kind of honey just helps blend all that stuff together. Now, that's the part of the video where I'm going to have to do some editing. Yeah. So this blend is from two specific beers from Bench, or at least that's what the label says. The Maple Grove and the Oak Maple Trail, and the Oak Grove. Two beers that we have available at the brewery, which is kind of awesome. And the blend is really delightful. So I'm assuming the wood character that I'm getting is more from the maple, because I've had the Maple Trail on its own. It's very, very wood-like, very sweet. A little bit of that maple comes through, but not too much, and the tartness is very well balanced. For the Oak Grove, being part of the Grove series, it's part of the Sour series of Bench. I think that's where most of the acidity comes from. But there's a little bit of that Flanders red acidity, that vinegar in that back end. And that's NFU. NFU has, most of their beers have that kind of more vinegar sour to their beers, which I think mixed with a little bit more of that fruity sourness, that citric sourness, it makes a very, very well balanced blend that is a little easier drinking. Now, I think, and this is like 3 years of drinking NFU in, I think that's why I love this brewery so much. It's just the blend that they can do with sours is phenomenal. And I've heard rumors that they have a very specific, very awesome way. I don't know if it's public or not, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but a specific way to blend their beers, which I think if you are going to be a brewery that blends barrels, what they have is phenomenal. It's the perfect way of blending, because with their technique, they can actually figure out the end result of their beer, what it's going to taste like as soon as it is carved and cold and packaged, which is phenomenal, because that's the one thing that brewers have to work on the most, is kind of creating that palate's mind's eye where you have a taste of a fermenting beer and figure out, oh, I think it's going to go this way, or I think it's going to go that way, and kind of working on that palate so that you can have a taste of a beer that's not even halfway done fermenting and going, oh shit, this is perfect. That's exactly what we need. Let's dry hop it in 2 days with exactly this amount to get the final result. When it comes to brewing, the palate is the most important. But I haven't forgotten that the whole theme of this video is collaborations. And this, I think, is a great collaboration between a brewery from Ontario and a brewery from Quebec that are both very passionate about their barrels, very passionate about their tart beers, and creating a phenomenal blend together. Collaborations. I think we need more in this industry. It's us against the big guys, and the big guys are winning. So the more we can fight together and not against each other, the more we're going to win this. Or at least we're going to get our product in the hands of more and more people, the most people that we can. So if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe, share, and don't worry, we're going to have more videos with me and Chris in them quite soon. It's just been a little hectic in these last few days, especially with the holidays kind of around us, like not around, like coming around, but literally we are in the holidays. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. And if, well, actually not if, let us know in the comments below, what is your favorite collaboration that you've had so far? And that's it. That's all I got.